Hello and welcome everybody to this XTB live news. My name is Walid Koudmani, market analyst for XTB. And in this video, we're going to be talking about the main events happening in the markets today, Friday, the 11th of June, 2021, final trading session of the week, what we can expect from the second part of this session, what happened in the first part, and we're going to take a look at the charts to see some major moves and some key levels to keep an eye on as we head into the weekend. So today, quite an interesting day, as yesterday we saw positive moods in indices, transferred from US indices, which reached new all-time highs with the S&P, into European indices this morning, which also are attempting to move higher. This comes after a few days of uncertainty. We saw indices pull back quite a bit, and we don't have a lot of macro data today, but we do have a few events that I'm going to mention in a minute. But just a quick recap, we have US indices trading higher yesterday with the S&P making a new record, the Nasdaq up 0.78% and the Dow Jones up about 0.06, so not that much for the industrial Dow Jones. However, some interesting news and important news for the UK. According to the UK Times report, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson is considering a 4-week delay to lifting the COVID restrictions. This isn't something that it may come to as a surprise to many, but some people were more optimistic. That obviously might end up having an effect on the economy moving forward until, of course, the full reopening happens. Bitcoin and cryptos have been also unstable. We saw some movements throughout the past weeks. All that bull run that was happening seemed to have slowed down significantly, but at the moment around 36, 37,000 as well. If we take a look at the economic calendar for today, we had, as I said, a difficult session start for European indices, but then they tried to make a push higher. We have the University of Michigan data for today at 3 p.m. and an important event, which is not correlated to any headline in particular, but is worth keeping an eye on, is the beginning of the G7 meeting. So the G7 meeting starts today with obviously the G7 countries, and any sort of headline from there could also be worth keeping an eye on to keep an eye on the markets and the impact that it might have depending on where it comes from, of course. I'm sure many of them will be discussing, of course, the prospects of reopening, the outlook that they have, and what the plan is also to reopen trade and reestablish trade and travel between particularly North America and Europe, and of course the UK. So if we take a look at the charts in this final session of the week, let's start with the DAX as always. DAX, which again, mixed session start after yesterday's positive session, but as you can see, upward move started after that, and the index is actually up about 0.75%, very, very close to its all-time high as well. As I'll show you also, other indices are close to their all-time high, so all levels to keep an eye on, managing to break back into the previous trading range we saw, and currently around 15,680 points on the DAX. When it comes to the UK 100, on also positive start, we can see here similar situation, trading sideways for quite some time, and then a potential breakout at the moment of the top level, which acted as resistance in the past, currently being retested as a potential support around 7,133 points. But you can see very high levels also for the UK 100. Trading higher in this final session of the week. If we take a look at the US index, so as I mentioned, the S&P, so US 500, reaching a new all-time high, and then pulling back slightly. Today, starting the day already testing it. So it's going to be interesting to see if it can break through and continue, or if this all-time high will act as a resistance. What we've seen as of late, as after this drop, we saw this potential double top, and then an upward push with some consolidation, and then another upward push with more consolidation. So it's going to be interesting to see if this is going to be more consolidation or not. If we want to draw perhaps some lines, we could let's say do something like this and just check this area for a very, very short term to see if it actually, as you can see, acted as a resistance in the past and potential support at the moment. But so as the US 500 is actually sitting at new all-time highs, let's take a look at the Nasdaq, which is the US tech index, very, very close from the all-time highs. If you're on the WhatsApp group, you've received the notification, and if you're following the news section on the website right here or on the platform, you'll see about 0.5% from the all-time high on the Nasdaq. I mentioned this quite often in the videos that the Nasdaq and the S&P are correlated, but we've seen that the Nasdaq has lagged when it comes to recovering compared to the S&P. And one of the important reasons is because a lot of the tension surrounding potential financial policy and fiscal policy change from the central bank in the US, which is tied to the rise in inflation, as we saw yesterday, inflation at record levels, highest levels since the 90s. And that pressure tends to be more generally focused on the tech stocks, and tech index, as they have been the ones to benefit the most from the pandemic. So we can see any sort of adjustment to fiscal and monetary policy and any sign of potential taxes moving forward also impacting those indices more than the others. So at the moment, though, very important level, very short distance from the all-time high, and you can see quite the recovery from the low, which we saw also just about a month ago. So about 9%, almost 9% recovery to the all-time high. Taking a look at commodities, on the other hand, positive start today for oil, but we saw a pullback again. Brent trading around 72.50, so very high levels, highest levels in quite some time. Again, as you can see, trading in this range. WTI also very, very high, as I'll show you here. We saw some important news regarding this. So what happened yesterday was Saudi Arabia announced basically that they would terminate their voluntary cuts. So that was a voluntary cut that they were adding onto the expected cuts from OPEC in order to stabilize the price of oil with the demand issues that were obviously related to COVID. So now they've decided to do that. In addition to that, the negotiations for the Iran nuclear deal continue with the US. So that's also something that we've talked about in the past. And that's related to the potential increase of supply into the markets of around 2 million barrels per day if Iran and the US reach a deal, as those have been sanctioned and have been off the market for quite some time. So all those things together have been adding pressure to the prices of oil, along with the potential of more lockdowns as we've seen. But at the moment, still very high levels for both oil and oil WTI, as you can see on the 1 hour chart, testing the Ichimoku cloud and then still managing to remain above it at the moment. But you can see a few candles on the hourly chart are red. WTI around still above $70. You can see 12 out of 15 sessions closing higher, and especially since this low of 61 reached towards the end of May, or the third week of May. Gold, on the other hand, opposite day of for gold. So we're seeing quite the negative day for gold, as we're seeing also the rise of indices to new all-time highs, and gold down about 1%, 1.15%, breaking now just now below the Ichimoku cloud on the H1 timeframe, trading around 1883, which you can see many price reactions. But if you can see the previous support or shorter term support that was tested was around 1870 or 1869, and we had this drop was just about yesterday actually. So this is the range, quite a wide range for gold, which is something that we've seen, as you can see, in the past, with gold moving up and down, reacting to the performance of indices, reacting to the moods in the markets, reacting to the bond yields, which were a huge topic for quite some time. And at the moment, we can see that gold is actually pulling back, trading around 1883. After just testing once again the resistance area around 1900, 1903, you can see test number 1, 2, 3, and then a pullback. The price has not managed to break above it since basically the beginning of June. But after it actually did, you saw this drop to 1855 and then some consolidation above that. So it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on for gold, as well as we're seeing it test some key levels at the moment as well. When it comes to silver is going to be a similar situation as I'm going to show you here in a second. Silver actually pulling back. This is the daily. So positive performance for silver, but you can see similar chart, not quite as bad, still remaining around $28 for silver. If we want to take a look very quickly at Bitcoin still hovering, as you can see, around 37,000. When it comes to currencies, we go to the market analysis section of the platform, and we'll see that USD is actually one of the best performing currencies today, which is interesting considering what we just saw with the gold. Euro is mixed to negative. Pound is slightly more positive. Swiss franc is more positive. CAD is positive, while the New Zealand dollar is actually quite negative today. So if we take a look at some pairs, we're going to go see that the US dollar strength is reflecting into the pairs. You can see here pound USD at 141.4, still remaining in this range that we've talked about in the past, above 141, even though it broke through it briefly during this week. But still now heading towards the Ichimoku cloud, breaking below the SMA at 21. And we are seeing some strength of the pound, some strength of the dollar as well. So not some major moves we are seeing, still in the range, and still above 141.4, still key levels, both on the top side and on the bottom. If we go instead on the Euro USD chart, which is overlaid with the USD index, you can see Euro USD having a much worse day, with the USD index trading higher, pushing up and the USD actually dropping to 121, still above the 121, so not quite breaking below it, but you can see the strength of the move, which was also pushed by the strength of the upward move by the USD index, which we are seeing here. USD index, which we want to take a look on, let's say the daily, is trying to recover after this consolidation that we saw, reaching lows just below 90. And so that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. My name is Walid Koudmani, market analyst for XTB. Good luck with your trading and have a good weekend.